When people talk about what's at stake in this election, it's more than just the economy. Let me tell you what we value. We value the right of women to be protected in their own homes against abuse. We value a Supreme Court that recognizes the right to privacy. We value equal pay for equal work. We value a minimum wage that allows people at least to get by to the next day. We value a family, which means that we value people getting paid leave to care for their sick child, to be able to go to the parent-teachers meeting. I love these guys who say, take more responsibility. How do you get to your parent-teacher meeting in the middle of the day? How do you show up? Like when my son, when I was a single parent, and they called and said he dislocated his hip. Guess what? I show up in the playground because I had no boss. But what would happen if I worked for a large corporation? What would happen if I had my own I worked for a small business? I wouldn't have been able to go. So don't tell me about what you value, John. Tell me about what you're going to do about what you value. We think we will literally, not figuratively, give 8.4 million working women up to a $4,700 a year pay raise. How? Raise the minimum wage. We'll expand the earned income tax credit, which even Ronald Reagan said is the single best social equalizer in the world that will benefit at least 5 million women who are living in poverty. We'll extend child care tax breaks. What do you all do? Where are your children right now? If you're working, or if you're here and you took off a little time. Most people to be able to work, they have to have their child in child care. Try affording that. Try affording that when you're working on the minimum wage. Try affording that when you're making $25,000, $26,000, $28,000 a year. Well, we're going to make sure that we extend that child care tax break so another 7.5 million people have initial income to do that. And we're going to guarantee that every one of those retired women, those women living on Social Security like my mom, those women who have pensions, if they have any, that adds up to all less than $50,000, that you don't have to pay a single solitary penny in federal taxes. Because why? We value the fact that people are entitled to some dignity and independence. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll guarantee that every single one of you single mothers and married women who are here today and all around this world or all around this country trying to send their kids to college. You know, they talk about the 400,000 kids that got in and couldn't go, and about how it's a shame. You know what's equally as much of a shame? It's equally as much of a shame what we do to those 6 to 800,000 parents. I'll never forget going down to borrow a car from my dad. He managed an automobile dealership for my senior prom after a baseball game. It was a Friday night. I'll never forget this. Going down, true story. And I'm walking into the showroom and asked where my dad was. And they said he's out in the lot. And I walked out in the lot to see my dad, and he looked like something terrible had happened. And I said, "What's the matter, Dad?" He said, "No, Champ, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I said, "Dad, what's the matter?" He said, "I'm just so sorry." And I looked at him, I said, "What's the matter?" He said, "Honey, I'm sorry. I went to the bank. They won't lend me the money to get you to college." Ladies and gentlemen, it wasn't the fact that we figured out a way. But wasn't the fact that that moment it looked like I wasn't going to get to college. He was stripped of his dignity. Just like you women and men out there, when you have to look at your talented child and say, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to not make you say sorry anymore. You're going to be able to get a $4,000 refundable tax credit to send each one of your kids to school. And we're going to guarantee that every woman in America, as well as every man, has affordable, decent health care. The same health care that I have as a United States Senator. Look, all these things add up to one thing. They add up to one word: respect. Respect for people who work hard and play by the rules. Respect for people who love their country. Respect for people who are willing to do whatever needs to be done to provide for their families. It's about time government help them and not get in the way of them. Ladies and gentlemen, When they tell you we can't pay for this, let me tell you how we pay for it. There's a lot of very patriotic people that make more than $250,000 a year. And they are, by the way. There's a lot of millionaires who are patriotic. But we haven't asked anything of them in this moment of crisis. This year, people making over just the top 1% who make you got to make $435,000 a year to get in there, and the average income is $1.4 million a year. You know what? And they're good. They're real. I'm not being facetious. They're good people. But you know what? They're going to get a tax break, just that one category, of $86 billion this year. For $86 billion, I can do everything I just said to you. So don't let them tell you we can't afford this. It's about priority. It's about what you value. What do you value? Is it more valuable that these good people get an additional tax cut, or that we give this to the middle class so they can get up off their chairs, they can provide for their families, for the women of this country who in fact are struggling in this hard economic times? Ladies and gentlemen, this country needs to do better by women, because when we do, this country will do better. So please join us. Please join Barack and me. Please join Michelle and Jill. You know, I want to end. I always get kidded. I get kidded by my colleagues, including Barbara, that I'm always quoting Irish poets. And they think I do it because I'm Irish. That's not the reason. I do it because of the best poets. That's the only reason. But one of my favorite contemporary poet is Seamus Heaney. For the last 15 years, I've been quoting, not quite 15, since the mid-90s, quoting a poem that he wrote called The Cure at Troy. And there's a stanza in that poem that I think embodies the sense that the vast majority of women and men in America feel in their heart. And the stanza goes like this: history teaches us not to hope on this side of the grave, but then, once in a lifetime, that longed-for tidal wave of justice rises up, and hope and history rhyme. Yeah. Join us. Yeah. Join us in making hope and history rhyme, because we can. I promise you. I promise you. Keep the faith. Thank you all so much for being here. Let's get up.